Hello and welcome to The Big Fight. So just last week we were doing a program on rape, in particular the rape of children, and now a suggestion that's come from a judge of the Madras High Court: castration. Well, it's not quite clear whether it's actual physical castration or chemical castration or bits of both, but it's an interesting suggestion, and this specifically is what he had to say about it. He said, though the suggestion of castration looks barbaric, barbaric crimes should definitely attract barbaric models of punishment. And the very thought of the punishment should deter the culprit from committing the offense. So is castration of rapists, and especially those who rape children, something that this country should consider very seriously? And we have 8 fantastic panelists, equally divided, 4-4 and 4 against. So let me start off by welcoming from Bengaluru, Farah Khan Ali, who's been actually tweeting about this since 2012, if I'm not wrong, Farah. You've been tweeting about the fact that this is something that should be done. So great to have you on the show. Sohail Seth joining us right here in the Delhi studio. Kiran Manral, who's a well-known author, thanks for being with us. We do have Justice Usha Mehra, former judge of the Delhi High Court. Ma'am, we are going to get some of the legal opinion from you as well, and whether you agree with what the judge said in this case. We do have Mr. Raj Shekharan, who's a lawyer at the Madras High Court, and we'll get you also to interpret for us what exactly did happen in court. And Cricket is with us, journalist and author. Thanks so much for being with us. Vrinda Grover, an advocate who's been actually talking about women's rights and children's rights for a long time, but is actually against castration, if I understand your position correctly. So we will come to this in a minute. And finally, Sri Moikundu is joining us, former journalist, the author of Sita's Curse. Somebody balances that out by being very strongly in favor of castration of rapists. So let me kick off with you, Farah, straight, because as I said, you've been tweeting about this since 2012. Why do you feel so strongly that there should be castration for rapists? Isn't it a bit barbaric, is what some people will say?
Well, Vikram, like you said, barbaric crimes deserve barbaric punishments, and I believe that unless fear is generated among the people who do these heinous crimes on children, or even a woman, people who gang rape any woman, they need to have fear. They need to know that they cannot get away. And death is not enough, because death is peaceful, actually. You don't know what happens after that. You need to live with shame. You need to know that your manlyhood has been taken away, and I'm completely for it.
So you're talking about actual castration, not just chemical castration.
Yes, I'm talking about actual castration, because if you can think of raping children and taking away their childhood forever, then you deserve a punishment that is as barbaric.
Sohail?
You know, I find it bizarre that a judge of the Madurai bench of the Madras High Court would even use intemperate language to imply that barbarism needs to be met with barbarism. That is a reflection of the kind of feudal mindset that the Indian male lives and exists with. In the same very judgment, he talks about Robert Mugabe as the harbinger, as the upholder of rights for people, who've been raped. I mean, I find this judgment atrocious, silly, and primitive. We need systemic corrections in our society. Castration will not prevent rape, whether of children or adults. What will prevent rape is
it would prevent that particular rapist from ever being able to do it again.
But we are not obviously alluding to that. I think what we need is swifter justice. It is, with due respect to Justice Mehra, who one has admired for a long time, we have a tardy system of delivering justice. And I know Amartya Sen is no longer popular in these times, but in his book, The Idea of Justice, he brilliantly says, justice is ultimately about fairness, and fairness has a time connotation to it. We can't have four people who rape.
So deliver justice that's better than going for a more barbaric justice.
Obviously, because you will have loopholes in the law. We've seen it. The judgment mentions the USA, but within the USA, there are only 4 to 5 states that have adopted this. Why have the other states not? And for God's sake, Vikram, and the judgment is very pernicious in a particular way. It almost abhors human rights. It makes a mockery of human rights activists. It suggests that human rights activists have no place in civil society. I think the judge has not only been intemperate, the judge has been narrow-minded and absolutely tunnel vision.
I mean, the judge,
and I
judge
hope I
is not
don't
here.
get contempt.
No, I was just about to say that the judge is not here to defend himself. So,
I'm not.
with due respect to the judge,
Contempt is when you impute motives
That's
to the
right.
judgment.
You
But
can
intellectual ignorance can be
I
argued
need
on
to
either
ask
side.
you.
Absolutely.
Kiran, do you agree with which of them do you agree with?
On the face of it, barbaric crimes need barbaric punishments, but this isn't feasible in our system because there can be miscarriages of justice. There can be situations where somebody is convicted of something that he has not committed. And there can be a situation where we've seen it happen all the time. So what we do need is some sort of a system where repeat offenders are given the choice, as they have internationally in Denmark or in Sweden, to voluntarily opt for some sort of a chemical treatment which will reduce their libido, their urges, and undergo.
So somebody who voluntarily accepts
Accepts it.
chemical castration, that's your position.
That's
They don't
my
actually
position.
have it as a...
Castration forced on a person.
Okay, so voluntary chemical castration is something that
But
you
that
think
is
should be
difficult to
offered.
implement in our system.
Okay, give that as an offer. Ma'am, let me get your views.
Mr. Sohail has said because of the delay in the court, the things are going wrong. I must say it is the prosecution. Unless they bring all the evidence together, unless they bring the investigation quickly to the court, justice cannot be done. Though we have got the law in 2012, we brought protection of children from sexual harassment. It's a very comprehensive provisions, but unfortunately not implemented.
Yeah.
With the result, this sort of judgments are coming. Though they may be morally right, but they are legally absolutely wrong.
Ma'am, so you've obviously, I'll come to some of the other solutions because you've done so much work on this. Even after the Nirbhay incident, you came out, you made a lot of excellent suggestions on how we can make our cities safer. But I just want to ask you specifically on this point on castration. Is that potentially in
No,
your mind a solution, a deterrent, voluntary or otherwise?
Deterrent or fear will not bring end to such a crime.
Absolutely.
Why not?
You have seen that we have got death penalty for committing murders, but has the murder reduced? They have not.
Okay, so it's not the, so it's your
It's not
point
fair.
is that it's not the severity of the punishment, but the surety of actually getting the punishment that is the real deterrent. And okay,
Within a
that's
certain time frame.
within a certain
certain
time
time
frame.
frame,
So
yes.
don't worry about how severe the punishment is, just make sure the person is punished for sure within a certain time frame, and that will be a bigger deterrent. All right, that's an interesting point of view. Mr. Rajshekharan, what is your sense of what actually happened in court that day? What
See,
exactly
actually,
was
the judge
was
of
judge
the
thinking?
Madras High Court Madurai bench is a very serious and upright judge. We should appreciate him for all his judgments, prior judgments to this. But this is not a judgment. This is a suggestion. The recommendation he has made to the government of India, saying that why don't you consider this punishment for the serial offenders of child rape.
You could interpret for us what exactly it is that the judge was saying then. So what was his...
See,
what was-
actually it was a petition, a foreign national was coming on a petition before the honorable judge for a quash of he had abused a boy. For that the red alert notice was issued to him, and he came before the honorable court through his counsel, and they wanted to quash the petition. But the judge took up this matter, and he went on saying that we have to take this matter very seriously.
And then let's continue. So, but was the judge essentially referring to actual castration, chemical castration, or voluntary chemical castration?
No,
Because
judge
there's a
was
range
only
of
making
options.
suggestions. He was not specific. That is important to be noted.
Is it a judgment or is it a suggestion?
It's a suggestion.
No.
It is a suggestion. It is only a recommendation or a suggestion, whatever.
Wrapped in a judgment?
Yes.
Pardon?
Wrapped in a judgment?
Is that the occasion to give suggestions
I mean,
to
you know,
government through?
judges are not
every
supposed
judge
to.
has the right, as Justice Madam is with us, and every judge has the right to make
Let
some
us
observations in the court.
let us ask Justice Mehra
He
if he
has
would, in a
left it
quashing of
vague.
FIR, do this.
No, I am saying he has left it vague. Now, castration at what stage?
Okay.
At the trial stage, High Court, or when the Supreme Court decides the
And
appeal?
what is the
At
nature
what
of
stage?
castration? Does he even understand
Yeah,
it?
because I mean,
He has
castration
left
has the
it
death
vague.
penalty, especially if it's not chemical, it's physical.
No,
it's
and
not.
making
It's
a
not a
suggestion
sort of
is
a
not
thing which you
crime.
can reverse on appeal.
Vikram,
So that's a bit of
Vikram,
a.
he's not taking a walk in the park where he's having a conversation. Actually, let's try castration.
Yes.
This is a court of
that-
law.
that's wrong.
I mean, it's
I
supposed to be a
disagree.
judgment.
No, I disagree with you. See, he was very serious. He is a very...
No, he could be very serious. I'm talking
I'll
about...
tell
I
you.
don't think we are
See,
talking about the
he's worried
personality
about
of
the
the judge.
society.
So
he's
are
worried
we.
about the victim's family.
Yes, so are we.
He is worried about
let's
the
not-
children who has been...
Let's not get into what the
victimized in
judge
this
did or didn't do. I
offense.
think
You cannot make something which is out of
Well, the
context.
same,
You know?
but I
the
think-
same, with due respect, the same judge has made comments about the Nirbhaya victim.
Correct.
And saying that women should not do things which will invite trouble. And
Can you
said
imagine?
that woman, the Nirbhaya girl who
Okay.
lost her life, why did she choose that time of the day to travel? This has come from the mouth of the same judge.
Yes.
While inaugurating...
Now,
One minute,
look,
Mr.
hang
Raj,
on, hang on.
can I
Can I-
just finish? While inaugurating a fast-track Mahila court, but he is a judicial officer when he does that. He does it in his capacity
Correct.
as a judicial officer, and we
Okay.
get to be, he betrays his thinking.
Okay,
This is
can I-
concern for women?
So-
Just one last
We are
Vinay, the
not-
judge is not
A
on trial
judge
out
of the High
here.
Court-
The judge is not on
a
trial
judge-
out here.
No judge of the Indian judiciary can make an unconstitutional suggestion. This suggestion is
Very brilliant.
unconstitutional.
Okay, so
I don't know the judge personally.
None
I
of
know
us
him as
do.
a judge of the Madras High Court.
we don't
So
need
you
No,
should
you
not
don't have to be
attribute-
that
you should
defensive
not
also.
attribute motives for me. That's what I want to make it clear.
issue.
now let's come back to the actual sedition. You're saying it's ultra constitutional.
Unconstitutional,
Unconstitutional, fine. Doesn't mean to say that it is not a possibility that perhaps can be considered.
Well,
right?
as long as the Indian Constitution has standards that it does, where torture is prohibited under the Indian Constitution, where right to life with dignity is allowed, I want to go back to why this anxiety. And it's
Why
very
is
int-
chemical castration torture?
Yeah, let me just come to it.
Especially if it's voluntary, as she's
right,
suggesting.
yeah, which is voluntary, not dictated by the court. It's a very different way in which
Should
it
you
is done.
consider it?
Can we
Should it
just
come on to the statutes is
No,
the
let's
point.
just go back to where this anxiety goes. In fact, I would like to ask Farah, when she says castration, does she mean the chopping off of the penis?
No,
That
no,
is
no,
not
no, that's not what I
castration.
mean. That's not what I
The
mean.
judge did not mean that.
That's
Well,
not what I
let-
mean.
forget the judge.
Let me
Again,
make
you're
myself
representing the
clear.
judge.
Okay, can we allow Farah to speak for herself?
Let's hear Farah, please.
What shocks me is you're saying that it's torturous to have any kind of castration. But what about being torturous to rape a 5-year-old,
I'll
a
come to
2-year-old
that,
child,
ma'am.
and
I'll
not
come
think
to
about
that.
it?
I'll
Okay?
come to
No,
that.
let me finish.
Sure.
Let me finish.
Sure.
I have a daughter. I'm a woman myself, and as far as Nirbhaya went, the High Court took 8 months to give a judgment. The case is still in the Supreme Court, and it's 3 years, and nothing has happened. And you're telling me that we have to be kind to these people?
I am not
these
saying
people
that,
need
and
to
don't
be
put
taught
words
a
in my mouth.
punishment.
I am not
when
saying that,
okay,
ma'am.
and when
I
I
am not
say
saying
and
that.
when I say
This is totally-
castration,
this is the way we
I would
manipulate
say
discussions.
whether it is chemical castration or whether it's anything that robs them of their manlyhood, because rape is an attitude, rape is dominance.
Right. So
People
now
who
let's
do
come to
that
the
are
discussion.
wanting
Very
to
good.
prove their
Now
dominance.
let's come to the
And they
discussion.
don't care who they harm, whether it's a man, a woman, or anyone. So these people need to be taken to task.
Okay.
And if they're
Let's
not
see how
punished,
we will
they're going
take
to
these
keep
people and
repeating
these
it.
men to
And
task.
voluntary castration is a joke, because nobody's going to say, I volunteer to castrate
It's
myself.
not a joke,
have-
ma'am. There
they
is
have-
voluntary
there is-
chemical castration,
there is
which
voluntary
involves
castration.
I don't
the-
think anyone's going to volunteer.
It's happened in some other countries.
Across the
Data to
world.
support there is a very, very high rate of epidemic proportions of sexual violence in this country. We are seeing the tip of the iceberg. Most of child rape is underreported, unreported. Right.
We did that on the big
Let
fight
us
last
go
week,
back
yes.
to the judgment. What does it say? It says 91% of the cases have not been, there is no conviction. We are talking about the nature of the sentence. Where does the problem lie? Why is it so non-glamorous for anybody in this country to tweet about or to hold up a TV debate on why are there tardy trials? Why
Yes.
are the
You've done
trials
that-
not resulting in
you-
conviction?
I've done
That
at least
just
8
doesn't
big
make
fights on
for-
that, including 3 with you.
That just
So-
doesn't make for a tweet. You are not going to head towards castration when you have 91% acquittals in this country.
Correct.
Let me also point out, what was this case about? The mother and the child, a 15-year-old boy who was sexually abused. There is an allegation by a British national who supposedly is running a trust. Yes, there are pedophiles. Nobody denies that. They must be punished. They must be sentenced. What was the case about? The mother and the child saying, we withdraw our complaint. He did nothing to us. There is an affidavit they have filed in this case. Where is the state? Where are the people who are supposed to provide protection to these witnesses to be able to step into the box and give
so
the evidence?
you're saying
My
figure out
second-
the conviction rate.
No,
You're
no,
echoing
no,
what
no. Including opposing the sentence of castration. Parents, family members, and extended
90%.
family members.
90%.
These are the largest number of child sexual abusers who rob children of their childhood.
So you're saying the minute
Castration, they are not complaining. What are the suggestions made? Amongst the suggestions, revive the joint family system. The whole data shows that family is not allowing children to speak out.
Okay. Correct.
And what is the suggestion here?
So Lindy, let me get you.
Well, I mean, I think it's great in a way that the comment, suggestion, judgment, whatever we're going to define it as, in a way has happened that we are once again discussing this topic. But I think that the desire for rape, for castration, or let alone the death penalty, satisfies a sort of natural and innate desire for punishment and possibly for justice, debatable, possibly for justice, but there's just no evidence that it works. So why would we waste our time doing it? It satisfies a sort of innate animal instinct in us to see right being done. But I'm actually not sure it has any effect.
Has it had no impact in the countries that have tried it?
There is evidence that in Denmark, the volunteers who underwent voluntary chemical castration, not castration, it was medication to reduce their sexual desires and libido. Their chances of repeating their offences went down to 5% from 40%. So there was evidence of them being repeated.
So there has been some impact. Right, Srimoy, let me come to you.
Vikram, I have, interviewed survivors of child sexual abuse. It takes them years to even talk about it. Yes. So castration, yes, I also agree that we need a zero tolerance policy for, perpetrators of crimes of this nature. But then what about mothers who are telling their children that, hush, beta, don't say that your brother has touched, your penis. We are a country which is horribly squeamish about its own sexuality.
But Srimoy, your take on so let's just get, if you can look at the specific subject about whether castration is something that should or should not be done. What is your view on that? Because you seem to have said or written on a couple of occasions that you feel that would be a deterrent.
No, I think that, voluntary chemical castration is definitely not going to work in this country. Just like the death penalty, as many of you are saying, has not really proved anything. It's not stopped the occurrence of rape. So along with castration, I am for castration. Let me make that very clear. But along with that, we need to have fast-track courts.
You're saying there should be fast-track courts, and that perhaps something which everyone here can agree upon. But you're saying at the end of the process, there should be castration as a punishment. Why do you feel that way?
I have, spoken to somebody who was raped for 16 years by his own brother. And every time he would go to his mother or his, uncle to say that, this man is forcing himself upon me. He's my cousin brother. He's, it's painful. I'm bleeding. He was asked to shut up. And
but how does castration sort that issue out?
Castration will silence, the family will silence him for life precisely for the reasons that you are saying. When you are going to put penalty of that order, the family will never allow the child to speak out.
I think we need to send out a strong message.
Let us get convictions. That is the strong message. That is the systemic change.
There was a recommendation by the Supreme Court way back in Prakash Chand's case.
Yes, ma'am.
There was a recommendation subsequently by all of us that investigation should be separated from ordinary policing.
Yes.
It has not been done. Had it been done, then prosecute can do it immediately. We also recommended that there should be one stop where everything is done within 15 days time and the challan is filed, not done. So if the prosecution takes years together to get the evidence, court cannot help it. And if the witnesses come and get hostile, the court cannot substitute their evidence.
But ma'am, if there was a way of doing it all much faster, slightly, you also again after the Nirbhay case spoke about how the system needs to be more sensitive, how especially the victims or the survivors need to be treated in a lot more sensitive manner. All of that is something which perhaps the court could insist on, could be monitoring on a basis, and saying you have X amount of time to come out with your trial, have a fast trial, and have fast sentencing. Look how many years has happened since Nirbhay.
I agree with you the act which was passed in 2012, I am repeating again, not implemented till date, either by the court or by the state, because we have to have special courts for this purpose. And wherever we have in the court, fast track courts, the number of cases are not sufficient. So, the High Court says, since they may not sit idle, give other cases to them, because there is a paucity of judges.
Yes, I add one more thing. We need to deconstruct, because fast track court is becoming something like, we all just use this. We are talking about specialized courts. The judges, the prosecutors need to have special orientation and training. You cannot conduct this trial like you would conduct a dacoity trial. In Delhi, now there are at least in 2 courts, if not more, the vulnerable witness court, where special arrangements are made for child witnesses in sexual offences to depose. We need that kind of infrastructure to proliferate.